Hello, my name is Jessie Elmer, and this is my book review on the book Storm World: Hurricanes, Politics, and the Battle Over Global Warming by Chris Mooney. It was published by Marner Books, November 1st, 2017. So, the purpose of this book is explaining the controversy about global warming and its connections to hurricanes. So, some believe that humans are to blame and they're the ones, causing global warming and heating of the earth and just climate change of the earth. And that's actually creating worse storms and other, effects. And others believe that these storms are naturally worsening over time. So it kind of goes into the arguments starting from a long time ago, actually, of what causes hurricanes and also what's making them so powerful, and how people now are arguing against that also. So, the first men who started kind of the argument over the different sides are Redfield and Espy. So there was kind of two different ways they did research and experimenting during that time, which was either through data collecting and observation or looking just at like the law of physics. So Redfield did his studies based on observation and his own experiences, and Espy had the first atomic related theory. So Redfield's theory stated what we call, he kind of came up with the term cyclones, and he focused on looking at these storms and what he thought was happening. So he collected data from actually ship's logs and the captains from the ships, and also just eyewitnesses. And he was kind of the first one to do that sort of research. And so his theory was hurricanes were formed from whirlwinds and whirlpools, I believe he believed they were formed from. And so his theory was kind of related to atmospheric tides and mechanical gravitation. And some of that information is still used today on the study of hurricanes. And Espy actually had the first atomic theory, and he came up with the latent heat theory, which was hurricanes were caused by convection and vapor rising. He mostly focused on studying molecules of water, evaporation, and condensation, and he came up with that theory and dismissed, all of Redfield's theories. So kind of created these two sides. So, and actually now we know that both men were totally correct, but they both had some of the right ideas. So that's interesting that they both kind of helped explain the storm, but they both were wrong about some things. So, my analysis of this book, which I'm going to get into now, was I just overall thought this book was very interesting and informative, and I didn't realize how early on they started discussing hurricanes and researching all of that. And I just kind of assumed, I know this book kind of shows both sides, and I feel like I've always kind of assumed global warming existed, and just based on, human nature, and it seemed to make sense. But this book was really good at showing the research on both sides and thinking about it in different ways, and why one side might be right, one side might be wrong, and it actually seemed, more close of a tie in the book, especially in like the middle of the book. And so I thought it was good that it showed both sides. I think this book really helped show some of the main objectives was showing that history of the global warming argument, and also kind of who was affected by the global warming argument, and all the scientists that it brought in, and it also brought in, the political side of things too, and how that political discussion kind of focused though on, the US and its industries and not just on the science of it. So that was kind of interesting to read about also. I think the evidence in this book mainly supported the climate change theory, and that, that's real and it does exist, at least in some ways, even though there's some scientists who still deny it. And I think it helped bring awareness to how we could also just be focusing on studying these storms and what we should do to like protect ourselves, and realize that we might be the cause of some of the effects of it. But also, even if, the scientists don't believe that, they could be trying to focus on what we can do about these storms and how they are worsening over time. And I thought this book was really good at, like, in the conclusion, like saying we don't know, the reasoning for everything, and we can't possibly even guess, what could happen, but these are all like good theories still to study. So, this book kind of just helped get people to talk about climate change and the effects of it. And I think some of the major themes too was talking about the media a lot and how they really either supported certain scientists over others, and how that kind of affected people and what they thought of global warming. And also was interesting, like, the scientists, how they really like fought over these topics and kind of made it about them, like had to be against someone, and they couldn't even like share ideas. It was about like the argument of it. And I think, overall this is a good book for anyone to really read. I mean, it was a lot of information though, so I feel like you definitely have to be interested in this sort of topic to probably find it really interesting. And overall, I think this book helped reinforce the idea that global warming is real, and we are affecting the climate change and what that could eventually cause us. So I think that was interesting to learn about. So I would recommend it to other people. And then some more information that was interesting from this book was probably the discussions between scientists named Charney and Riehl, and also Bill Gray and Kerry Manuel. So Charney is someone who first came up with the CISC theory, which is the conditional instability of the second kind, and that definitely supported just human beings being the main cause of the climate change. And then Riehl had the heat engine theory, which is the thermodynamic system that converts heat energy into mechanical energy by processing it from one area of high heat to a lower one. So Riehl envisioned hurricanes as reliance on ocean heat, but he believed like the ocean heat increased naturally, unlike Charney. And actually who studied under Riehl was Bill Gray, and who studied under Charney was Carey Emanuel. So Gray had a lot of research to prove global warming was not real and what was actually causing hurricanes to get worse. And he didn't believe humans affected that at all. So his technique was observational, and he studied air measurements around hurricanes. And Gray came up with the idea that tropical cyclones form in the 6 ocean basins and the 3 belts of activity. And then Emanuel, he believed the cooling of the northern hemisphere is from air pollution, and the warming of it is from carbon dioxide. So he definitely believed, humans were causing all of that. And Gray still, thought that all the temperature change was a natural cycle and it wasn't caused by humans at all. And so that kind of fight went on for a while between those two scientists, and they both came up with a lot of research supporting their sides. But this book's conclusion ends on the note of the author Mooney saying that hurricanes are changing, and it's kind of going alongside global warming. So, the climate is changing, and these tropical storms are changing, and it's not proven really what will happen or the reason for it, but it's without a doubt affected by global warming. So he kind of ended by saying, we don't understand all the factors and what's causing them to get worse, but we have to acknowledge it and focus on what we can do about it, which is kind of the last thing he ended with. And also what I found interesting is that half of the U.S. population lives within 50 miles of the coast. So he was just saying how much it's actually going to affect people if we don't prepare ourselves for more intense tropical storms that could start hitting new areas. And I think we've seen a lot of that recently even. So it was definitely an interesting book to read and interesting things to think about. And that's about it.